This week's text amounts to some passages selected from chapters 7 and 9 of the book of Esther, and this is the only reading from Esther that's ever featured in the Revised Common Lectionary. The story of Esther has vexed Jewish and Christian interpreters through the centuries. It's one of two books in the Bible that never mentions God, and it's a very violent book. In this passage, there's a long backstory. Esther is a Jew who lives in the land of Persia in exile. And there's an evil character who shows up here in chapter 7 named Haman. His goal is to exterminate the Jews. So when Esther's guardian, Mordecai, finds out that the Jews are under threat in the city of Susa, he asks Esther to go before the king and request an audience from him. Unfortunately for Haman, Esther has become queen of Persia. And she invites the king, Ahasuerus, and Haman to a meal. They have this banquet, and the king does, as he does in these stories, he says to Esther, "What's your request? I'll give it to you." And she says, basically, there's a plot to kill one of the people I love and to kill all of my people, and I want their lives saved. When the king hears this, he says, "Well, who's behind the plot?" And she says, "That guy, Haman." Haman begs for his life, but he's eventually hanged. Violence breaks out, but the Jews are saved. So Jews and Christians have tried to sort out, how do we find meaning in this book that celebrates the deliverance of the people of Israel, but at the same time does so in a way that results in violence and killing of other people? I think modern preachers and interpreters would want to be careful with Esther. It's not a text that invites you to celebrate violence, but it is a text that invites us to think about the complications of what it means to be powerless in a dangerous world, and of what courage can really mean under those kinds of circumstances. Esther is, in many ways, one of the Bible's most remarkable heroes. On the one hand, she suffers something that's really great. She becomes the queen of Persia really by winning one of those harem contests. She pleases the king, and we're to understand that sexually in order to gain that position. But having assumed that position, she manages to save her people. So in part, this is a story of a person who is willing to risk her own life for the life of her own people. And many people, especially women like Esther, have to go through all kinds of degrading, risky experiences. And they do that because they love their people. They're faithful to their families, their children. They're trying to provide, trying to make a way. That's a real point of contact between the book of Esther and our modern society, and it's one that I think lots of religious people easily overlook. The book of Esther is often turned into a very simple story about this queen and her heroism, but her risk and sacrifice are the kinds of experience millions of people endure every day.